Okay. Okay. All right. I'll keep an eye on them. So.
You want a water? Okay.
All right. Are you okay to go by 7, or do you need some delay?
I just want to get out before the hail gets here. The hail. 8:30, 8:39. I want to be. I want my car in my garage. I want to be in my house. Right? I don't ask for a lot. Well, they said there's portions of South Dakota, baseball-size hail coming tonight. Now, that's probably going to miss us. It's going to go over. But we've got, in our world, according to this, it says 8 o'clock, 8:30-ish, we're going to get rain. I don't know about hail, but we're going to get something. I'm at that stage in life where I'm not real thrilled to drive in that stuff. That would be the been there, done that, don't want to do it again stage.
Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. and serves as the city's policymaking and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rule of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the Chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information, that will benefit the council's deliberative process. By city ordinance, all remarks must be addressed to the city council as a body and not to any city council member, including the mayor. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City Government.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us, whether you're here in person or watching on TV tonight. We appreciate it. It is Tuesday, June 13th, and let's introduce you to your City Council.
Councilmember Starr?
Here.
Staley? Here. Erickson? Here. Erpenbach? Here. Kylie?
Here.
Neitzel?
Present.
Rolfing?
Here.
Selberg?
Here.
Thank you all, councilors, for being here. We appreciate it. We also thank Reverend Brett Best. He's with Emmanuel Baptist Church, and he was going to lead us tonight in our invocation. We appreciate that. Thank you. What we'd ask is that you stand for that invocation, and then also remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Best, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. My thoughts tonight are inspired in part by my reading of Ole Rolvog's Giants in the Earth. And I think if you live in this part of the country, you ought to read that book. It puts us back into our heritage. Would you pray with me? God of our fathers, we thank you for the foundation prepared for us by those who called these plains home. We thank you for the Native Americans who were stewards of the land, respecting its physical and spiritual dimensions. We thank you for the immigrant Americans who, by industry and organization, brought the land into service of the people. We are the beneficiaries of their faith, well-favored sons and daughters of Providence. May we always be grateful for and generous with our prosperity in all the forms in which it appears to us. Knowing with the same certainty that we have received a heritage, we also work tonight to create a destiny. We ask you to bless tonight's proceedings for the benefit of all who will call Sioux Falls home. And we would ask you, Father, for a gentle rain this evening to preserve us from drought and to lift up those who rely upon the land, which is all of us. I offer these prayers in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilors, thank you. We'll now move to our consent agenda. Any motions or changes with that?
Move to approve.
Second, Staley.
Thank you. Council Chair Kiley has made a motion to approve that item, seconded by Councilor Selberg. Thank you. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Yes. Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzel?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Now our regular agenda for tonight's meeting. Councilors, any changes to that? Motions?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second.
Councilor Erpenbach's made a motion to approve our agenda tonight, seconded by Councilor Chair Kiley. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzel?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilors. That has passed 8-0. I appreciate it. Before we go to public input, I did want to recognize we've got a couple of scout troops in our audience tonight. First of all, if I could have the Troop 21, that's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints troop. Would you mind standing up, please? Welcome to tonight's meeting. And then secondly, we have Troop 152. That's the Zion Lutheran Troop here in Sioux Falls. Would you mind standing? We'd appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate that. Now, folks, this is the public input portion of our meeting. We would encourage you to come forward, speak to the council on any topic that is of interest to you. Just a couple of things. We'd ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, please. Just introduce yourself to the people of our town by stating your name. And then also, we just ask that you keep your comments as productive as possible. No need to raise your voice or shout. And if you can keep your comments towards the body as a whole, the council would appreciate that as well. Again, welcome. Would anybody want to engage the council? Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rodney Fitz, and I'm a resident here of Sioux Falls and a property owner. And first, I just want to thank the council and thank each of you for your leadership for making this such a great city, because we're very fortunate to live here, and thank you. But I wanted to address just a little bit about the rental registration. It was in the Land Use Committee tonight, and I wanted to kind of speak about that and kind of share some concerns if I could. And you know, with the rental registration, I think most of you are aware of it and understand, you know, what the purposes of it is. But I want to ask you a couple of rhetorical questions first. It has to deal with landlords. But when you look at code enforcement, you know, we have laws. For instance, that deal with snow removal, correct? If someone doesn't do that, we have ordinances that deal with their lawns not being cut. We have ordinance if garbage is out there. We have ordinances if someone doesn't trim their trees or if someone's not taking care of their property. We have all of those ordinances, correct? And we do, and those ordinances, you know, should be enforced, and we have a very much need for those ordinances, and for whether it's a rental property or a single family property, those ordinances are necessary to maintain good order within the city, and I think everybody understands that. The issue I have with the rental registration, and part of the reasons that I don't think it's very effective for what it does, is first, one of the reasons for the rental registration is you wanted to have a contact so you could make contact with a property owner about issues. Now, I own 18 different locations in Sioux Falls, rental properties. You know, that represents over 600 units. And I have to tell you, we get letters once in a while for things, but we don't get the letters. I got to be honest with you. I'm the owner. I don't get a letter. In fact, I got notice of a letter today that came to one of our registered agent of our LLC, who doesn't own the property, who has nothing to do with the property. A registered agent of the LLC is a person who deals with the stocks or with the shares that are within the LLC, and yet they get a letter for an issue. We don't get the letter. So that's really you know, having a contact, if it was in this ordinance, really doesn't bode well, because we're not utilizing the contacts there now. Every one of my properties are registered. I am the registered property manager on that registration with every one of them. I don't get the letter. Okay, so my first thing is the registration is not being utilized. And so then it's just one more law we're putting on, a burden on people to comply with that we don't use in the first place. Secondly, I have a big fear with these types of ordinances, and they are a fear of having a barrier to business, to going into business. You know, for instance, when this last change came out in the ordinance, sometimes things happen where we say, yeah, you really can't do that, but things go too far. And that's the problem, is whenever we put an ordinance up like this, things can go too far, no matter what the intentions are now. For instance, one of the proposals in this ordinance that was later was struck out, but the ordinance is that if a property owner is found not guilty in a court of law, and yet the city still feels that the property owner was guilty, or the landlord, they could take his rental registration away and take away the right for him to rent property. Now, so then where would a property owner go? You know, what's their resolution? They can't go to a court of law. and that then it doesn't matter. And those things kind of goes too far. Now, when you think of a barrier to business, once you have this type of registration that's out there, what stops a future council that, even though this council has the best of intentions to correct some issues, but what stops a future council saying, okay, if you want to be in this business, we're going to require you to put out 50% equity in your property before you can rent your property out. Now, a new person going to business couldn't do that, but what would stop them? You think, well, that's kind of ridiculous, but is it? I remind you, going back to the first initial proposal that was in there, is we can stop someone if they go to a court of law and found not guilty. We can still stop them from renting property. Those things can happen, and I just think that this registration should probably be really thought about it being rescinded, and that's my input to you tonight. So, thank you,
Ronnie. Thank you. Great commentary. We appreciate it. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Clara Hart. I live on 4906 Kalen Place. I'm here today to talk about World Refugee Day. In fact, we were expecting to receive a proclamation. It was ready, but we don't. Is it going to be ready today?
Clara, are you asking me a question?
Yes. We're here to get the proclamation and also talk about World Refugee Day. And so what I'll talk about it, we are members of Refugee Congress. This is an organization Refugee Congress is an advocacy and advisory organization comprised of refugees, asylum seekers, and stateless persons from across the U.S. who seek to champion domestic and international refugee issues. So on that 20th, that is on Tuesday, next week, we're going to have a simulated refugee camp set up on the grounds of the old Killian College. That's where the refugee center is. And we will have participants show you through an interactive exhibition throughout the day. And these tour guides, who are made up of former refugees, are going to take you to each tent. We'll have a makeshift refugee camp with real tents. And the purpose of that is to help you understand what it's like to live in a refugee camp. So we're going to have a mini refugee camp in Sioux Falls on Tuesday next week. As I said, the tour guides and many of the participants are former refugees, and you're all welcome, and we'll be really grateful if we can get that support from you. And the times are there, and please, again, welcome and thank you. And I want to introduce you to my friends. Some of them have been here before. Can you stand up? Shagitu from Kenya, Nadifa from Chad, Kamala from Bhutan, Pastor Janina from Sudan. Who's that? Oh, yes. Thank you again.
Welcome, everybody. We appreciate it. And Clara, we don't have anything here on the proclamation. I'd recommend just going through the city clerk's office, and we'll definitely coordinate that with you. But again, thanks for letting everybody know about Tuesday. We appreciate it.
Yes, it's ready. It's there. Julie just forgot to bring it. I already read it, the proclamation, so I can pick it up tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, Clara. thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Wayne Fanabust. I'm a retired lawyer and a full-time writer of nonfiction books. I want to talk just a few minutes about someone whom I've written about extensively, Senator R.F. Pettigrew, and his his role in making Sioux Falls a great city. He served in the U.S. Senate from 1889 till 1901, but before, during, and after he served in the Senate, he was strenuously devoted to making Sioux Falls into a great city. So what would he think of his creation as it exists today? Well, he first came here in 1869 when there was really nothing here except a lot of beautiful scenery and a military installation called Fort Dakota. He camped out near the fort, and he's one of these kind of people, I think, who could sit around a campfire and see a city in the making. He was young, he was well educated, he possessed a keen and powerful intellect with a single-minded personality, and he was ideally suited to build a city from scratch, and he was in the right place at the right time. Well, he was what you call a self-made man by the 19th century expression, and he admired people who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and carved successful lives out of the frontier. He was a capitalist in accordance with the parlance of the time, but he was a Main Street, not a Wall Street entrepreneur. He identified with mom-and-pop businesses, so he would be pleased to see so many small businesses, restaurants, and shops in Sioux Falls. In politics, he evolved from a stalwart Republican to a silver Republican to a populist and finally a Democrat. He left the party of Lincoln when he saw it was no longer the party of Lincoln. He became thoroughly caught up in the progressive movement of his time and would be proud to see that Sioux Falls has a number of things such as public transportation and regulated utilities, because he believed that things such as lights, water, and sewage should be run for service and not for profit. Now, the interstate highway system would intrigue him as well, because he lobbied very strong with his fellow progressives for a federally funded interstate highway system with railroads, of course. And, of course, our city's park system would meet with his approval. In his time, he had a funny way of dealing with people that he believed were standing in the way of progress. They were called kickers and croakers. And that label was freely applied to anybody in Sioux Falls that Pettigrew felt was not pitching in and doing what he should for the city. E.A. Sherman, Melvin Grigsby were picked on by Pettigrew, were needled if they weren't working hard enough. When he wanted something, he wanted it desperately. With this in mind, he would be pleased to see the Sioux Falls has such facilities as the Washington Pavilion and the Event Center, because these projects would be seen by him as people coming together for the public good. New ideas were always welcome in his circle of allies. No one at his time would ever accuse Pettigrew of thinking small. He always was a big thinker, like the Queen Bee Mill, for example, was one of his projects. It was a colossal failure, but it was big, and he was proud of it, too. But I think one of the things that would really make him especially proud is the fact that his city, Sioux Falls, is far, far bigger than Yankton. Now, he didn't like Yankton because during the territorial days, the political oligarchs were pretty rough on him, and he never forgave them. So seeing Sioux Falls as 178,000 and Yankton's is about 14,000 would please him. The size of the city would concern him somewhat because he was fond of the farmer, and the sprawling city with concrete asphalt everywhere, covering up good soil, would give him some cause for concern. But he was not a scientist, but believed in science, and after seeing how technology increases crop yields, he would probably come to terms with less acres under the plow. Now, he was a believer in education, for he understood that a culture that does not educate its people is doomed to fail. It will descend into spiral of crime and punishment. Therefore, the great proliferation of schools in the city would please him, and seeing his name on an elementary school would give me great pleasure. He'd say, "Thank you very much. You didn't forget me after all." He didn't have a lot of time for art and music, but he understood their value. And at one time, he had plans to build a grand Pettigrew Opera House on Phillips Avenue at 11th. Therefore, the music and the entertainment venues we have today would meet with his approval. In other words, he would have voted for creating the pavilion and the EC. But he would have insisted that it be done locally, local contractors, local labor, and jobs for local people. In his lifetime, he valued the local quartzite stone and
Wayne,
promoted...
I'm going to have to ask, could you wrap it up, please? But it's tremendous commentary, but I need you to wrap it up.
Okay, yeah. The last thing I want to say is that the Siouxland Heritage Museum would be the crown jewel of Pettigrew's City of Sioux Falls, and that's one of the things he would appreciate the most. Thank you.
Very good. Really appreciate your comments tonight. Thank you. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, Councilors, Bob Colby here. I was reading something in the Argus Leader here the other day, and you had some part in it, I would say. There was a comment about Commissioner Barth, that one of the city employees made some comment to him that he wouldn't understand a particular situation. Well, Commissioner Barth is not one of my favorite people in the world, and I'm probably not one of his either. But I can't see where a bureaucrat takes and makes a comment to an elected official, especially when that elected official is sitting on the what would you call, I don't know what it was, the panel that was dealing with the ambulance, and if nothing else, it would at least be an insubordination of someone dealing with an elected official, if I understood the article in the Argus correctly. The person who made the comment probably should have something like a reprimand or something put in their personnel file, and maybe they ought to be working in Sioux City, who knows. If a person cannot explain something to someone else, that means one thing: they don't understand it themselves. They have never been a teacher and have never dealt with trying to make sure that other people understand what's going on. When I look at the ambulance service, I'm wondering who wrote the contract, because I'm seeing that they're coming before the city council here to get a bump in their service fees, which to me only says one thing: they're trying to find somebody to pay for all of the fines that they have accrued thus far. Who wrote the contract for the almost acceptable ambulance service? Maybe they go by the AAA ambulance service. Maybe that's what it means. Now, how come they aren't on a probation period? Anybody coming in and doing work usually has a probation period, even like an apprenticeship. You do good that first year, and then you get the rest of the contract. Now, there has to be an attitude change, because a lot of the people, I remember back in the day when I thought I wanted to run for mayor, I thought, you work for me, the city, you make me look good, or somebody else will. I think the attitude change has to be, you make us look good, or you can go elsewhere. Now, why is the city not in the ambulance service? I don't know. As Mr. Fanabus says, they should be for service, not for profit. Now, can you imagine what would happen if you called the police force and they were given, we got a 980 on the robbery down here at the bank. There's a fire somewhere in the city. Oh, we got a 980. They'll be there in 20 minutes or so. If we can't find somebody else, we'll call Hartford or Brandon. For service, not for profit. So, maybe this needs a better look, more scrutiny, because it really doesn't pass the sniff test. I had the good opportunity at the Sertoma to speak to them about Sioux Falls over the noon hour, and the conversation, not because I initiated it, but one person was saying that, yeah, they came and the ambulance service killed my neighbor's wife. Well, that's a pretty good allegation. It was such that he said that the woman was having a massive heart attack, and they called the ambulance service. The ambulance service came. The fire department had been there. They'd opened up the hallway, whatever, to get the gurney in so they could get her to the ambulance. The ambulance service said, oh, she's just having a panic attack, and they had her walk to the ambulance and called ahead to the hospital, and they weren't prepared for somebody with a massive heart attack who expired shortly thereafter. for service, not for profit.
Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Tim Stanga.
Tim?
I want to apologize to the people that are watching this city council meeting every night. When people come up to me in a department store or a grocery store or even when I'm working, and they talk to me about issues that are going on in this city, I apologize for bringing them up to the city council. I apologize because I'm not afraid to be open and honest and tell people, to let people know that, yes, I will bring them up at the city council meeting. But I always ask them, why don't you come and do it yourself? And they said, no, we're not going to, because we watch how people are treated at the city council meeting. You're either chastised during the meeting or chastised at the end of the meeting. And I can't disagree with them because that's true. But I also want to talk about the renter's agreement. I also have property. I also do not get contacted by the city when there is an issue on snow removal or yard care. My name is on my properties. I think the city knows my name pretty good, really. So why am I not being called? I came up here a year ago for snow removal on one of my rental properties because I was going to get charged. I asked him, I said, well, you have my number, you have my address, why was I'm not notified? It was sent to my rental house. How am I supposed to know? So needless to say, no, I did not pay the bill. I did dispute it. It didn't go in front of the city council because I did it outside. If we're going to have any kind of a rental agreement, then look at who owns the properties. But I also look at, there's houses out there that are dilapidated, that are falling apart, that absolutely are not rental properties. Why aren't we going after them people? Homeowners that don't take care of their properties, don't mow their yards. But then again, that's right. We have to call that in. But yet, when you go after a landlord, that's special because we can really go after them and we can show that, you know, we're tough. I think we should treat everybody equal. You have a landowner, and I got houses in my neighborhood that are run down so bad, but you have to turn them in. We have people that are hired to do a job, that do drive around town. The code enforcement. Do you have to turn something in to have the code enforcement do something? That shouldn't be. Code enforcement should look at something, and they should be able to write it up themselves, and to be able to turn it in, and to be able to not have neighbors turning in neighbors, somebody turning in a landlord because they don't like what's going on or they don't like a rental property next door to them. I think we're being unfairly treated. And I think something really has to be looked at this, and let's stop going after the landlords. Let's work together and to be able to come up with a compromise. But if you're going to have people sign a piece of paper stating that this is my property, you come to me. If there's an issue, I tell my neighbors next to my rental properties, if you have a problem, you come to me, I will deal with it. Because if you don't like my renter, I will deal with the renter. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Bruce Danielson. I brought something up here that I just wanted to announce to the public that we've now come up with a way to do transcripts on all city meetings, all city videos, and they're available. So if you're trying to do some research on a city issue like we've been doing on the ambulances and other things, we now have the ability to take those videos that we've been compiling all these years and now have the transcript that's searchable. So what we were dealing with here is, and I started bringing it up last week when I was here, was a situation, here Jim, I got more for you, that at 3 o'clock, approximately 3 o'clock last Tuesday afternoon, I was out and about doing my usual work, and I had a notice and the noise coming from the scanner saying that we had a situation where there was a two-car accident over in front of the Sanford Sports Complex. And there were 5 people injured in this accident. Some, I understand, were quite serious. This is a picture I took of the scene. And at that same time that there were 5 people injured at this accident needing ambulance, there was 1 ambulance available in Sioux Falls. There were also 5 980 situations where people were in need of service. And I keep track of all of this, here Jim, through a program that Pulse puts out that's called Pulse Point. And what I'm able to find out at any given point in time, and I am compiling data to present another little report that really didn't get covered today in the informational and that was going on. I appreciated finally seeing Julie Charbonneau and Jill Franken at a meeting to finally have that conversation. I've tried to reach them at their office, but they are always conveniently never available to talk. The REMSA board meetings aren't being recorded in any way, shape, or form, so I'll be starting to go to REMSA meetings just so I can record them, because then we'll have transcripts. Because they talk about things at these meetings that we don't get any information on. And if you look at the minutes that come from these meetings, they're lacking very badly. And one of the other things that I've been searching for, and it was good that we were able to finally get it out, was the background on the level 0, the 980, the depletion. You know, we don't know what's going on. And REMSA is hiding back there in their second floor room of the health department on their meetings when they have them every so often. And they're talking about these things, and we know nothing. And we citizens want to know. I'm getting a lot of calls from people asking, how can we get something done about this? We're working at it, and we're going to be bringing a lot more out into the open in the near future. And I just want to let you know that we're working at it. Thank you.
Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Hi, I am Stephen Ciano. I was not prepared to speak tonight, but since Clara Hart showed up, I feel obligated to express my appreciation of her husband and the experiences I have had with her. He's not with us anymore, but we shared some very good times in places such as Tom Hillion's Futures Group, where we would discuss various topics. And John himself, knowing I've done a lot of study in the area of religion and society, he had tried to get me to show up and be a presenter for one of their sessions. The group is no longer around since Tom is no longer with us, nor is John. So I wanted to say something about that. He and I had a common interest in poetry, in particular Poe, and had a lot of fun with The Raven. But that will be nevermore. Oh, I couldn't resist that, sorry. Sorry, John. Also, something in response to Scott saying something about me and then about Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, as Tesla, Mozart, Jefferson, Mahler, and many others who have great success, have had great insight. have the same predisposition as myself, that is Asperger's. So we are able to actually see things that others don't see. So we do have an advantage there at the expense of having it socially. We don't, if you know any of these people, Thomas Jefferson could not handle social situations, but he was an intellectual and musical genius, and architecturally and stuff like that. I have come up with inventions. I have figured, I have a theory on plate tectonics, that it is driven by magnetism, and studying geophysical journal, my theory is somewhat supported by what I have researched. But so I do have various interests and capabilities. However, I've been suffering with the situation, being unable to put it together. And just recently, I have talked with Vanessa Sweeney at Falls Community Health, and she is apparently intent on looking into getting me payment for my medical needs. And I do put it out there again that these are serious crimes to falsely declare me delusional and incompetent in order to deprive me of my basic needs. It is a medical issue, certainly, which Falls Community Health has not adequately addressed, and it's discriminatory, which I feel that the Human Relations Office has not adequately expressed, or addressed rather, is what I mean to say. So I'm making an effort, and maybe since I did have police a couple months ago come over to where I've been staying, out of concern for me, and when I told them that to my knowledge there's $300,000 sitting in a bank account in my name, that's identity theft, would you do something about that? And it's attempted murder because they deprived me of any income for years in an action that was expected to cause my death. But they didn't do anything. So maybe you have some influence over the police department. Maybe you have some influence over Falls Community Health. Maybe you have some influence over Human Relations Office. I hope to get help.
Stephen,
that's all.
Stephen, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, sir. Welcome.
Scott Erisman, Sioux Falls. Tim touched on it a little bit. But after last week's meeting, I sent you all a copy, and the mayor a copy of the First Amendment. Thought maybe you guys could sharpen yourselves up on what it is. One of the most important parts of it that I highlighted for you guys was interfering with the right to peaceably assemble or prohibiting the petitioning for a governmental regress of grievances. This is what this is, public input. It's that. It's in the U.S. Constitution. When you guys get sworn into office, you all get to come up here in front of the judge, and you put your hand up, you put your hand on a Bible, or whatever kind of book you pray to. And what do you take oath to? You take oath to the city charter, state constitution, and guess what? The U.S. Constitution. This one, First Amendment. Tim said it best. Why don't a lot of people come up here and speak in public input besides us five? Because they're scared to death, too. They're scared about repercussions. I hear it all the time. I hear it a lot. Scott, I would love to go up there and do what you do, but I do business with the city, and I do this and that, and I just don't need the problems. But what makes it worse is because they are right. I'm not laughing at them when they say that. Because when we all come up here and speak, in which we have a U.S. constitutional right to do, that you put your oath on when you get sworn into office, we get yelled at, we get chewed out for doing what is our constitutional right. That is not fair. You may not like this. Well, then just plug your ears and look down if you don't want to hear what we're saying. But we don't need to hear you complain about us coming up here and practicing our constitutional right. It's unconstitutional. So, every time you come to a meeting, get out your little Googles, Google the First Amendment and read it. Get a little refresher, let you know what it's about. And remember that when people come up here and talk. Thank you.
Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council? Very good, thank you. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to the Southeastern Council of Governments, CCOG Board of Directors, and Urbanized Development Commission, UDC.
Good evening, Jim David, Operations Manager for the City Council. This is the annual resolution appointing City Council members to both the Urbanized Development Commission and the Southeastern Council of Government Board of Directors. Be happy answering your questions.
Folks, anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Rolfing.
Council Vice Chair Erickson has been a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Rolfing. Councilor Starr?
Yes, absolutely. Jim, if you don't mind, at least on the agenda that I have, doesn't have who's being appointed. Maybe we should point out to the public who is being appointed to this.
Yeah,
these
thank you,
two
Councilor
groups.
Starr. I'll defer to the clerk. I do not have the resolution with me.
Okay, the members for CCOG, Council members Greg Neitzer, Pat Starr, with Jim David as an alternate. For UDC, Council members Rick Kiley, Rex Rolfing, Marshall Selberg, and Pat Starr, with David Bixler and Jim David as alternates.
Councilor Starr? Is that
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That is passed 8-0. Item number 9.
Item 9 is a resolution approving the release of part of a water main easement located in lots 1 and 2, Crowley, Boozmas, addition to the City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota.
Good evening, Council. Kurt Peppel, Public Works Engineering. The portion of the water main easement in question is just east of the intersection of Cliff Avenue and East 10th Street. Sayer Associates, on behalf of the owner, has requested the easement be released. City engineering easement release procedures have been followed. The easement area to be released contains no facilities and is no longer needed. Releasing this easement, this portion of the easement will aid in the development of the property in question. Engineering supports the easement release.
Thank you so much. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Very good. Councilors?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Selberg.
Councilor Brooks made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Selberg. If no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards, those being Board of Health, David Meyer and Teresa Miller, Civil Service Board, Sandra Hoagland Hansen, Parks and Recreation Board, Jason Reifstoffer, Siouxland Library Board of Trustees, Alexander Hartzler.
Thank you very much. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors? Councilor Staley?
Sorry.
Councilor Erickson?
Sorry, we were at the same time. I know that Don Kearney's not here, and I did reach out to him in hopes to get an idea of specifically the Parks Board, how many applicants were received, but I'd just kind of be curious if there's any information, maybe you, Mr. Mayor, know. I know I didn't ask you this in advance, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot right now. But I didn't know if we had kind of an idea of how many people apply for these. I just was curious.
You want to talk specifically about Parks and Rec?
That's really where I was curious.
Sure.
But
Parks and Rec is one of the more popular boards that people apply for. There's probably, I'd say, 15 to 20 applicants that are there. We keep them on file for a number of years. So if they're not selected, maybe this go round, they're certainly still available for the next go round. As I mentioned before, I take these very, very seriously. What I do first is I go to the actual director or the people that interface with this board. I'll have them, kind of give a cursory review of the applicants to see if there's, anybody on there that they that stands out to them. And maybe to step back, we first go to look at those that are already on to see if they are considered for a second term. Because there are situations where maybe the interface feels that they weren't a good board member for some reason. Maybe they didn't attend the meetings or they didn't offer a lot of input or what it would be. Then what I do is I'll certainly review them as well. I have made no secret that I've tried to make these boards more diverse over the last 7 years, and I think that we've done that. We've added, more people that are women, more people that are of diversity, younger people on the teams. I have looked at areas in terms of where people live. For example, when it comes to this particular Jason Reisdorfer, Jason has applied in the past. I seriously considered him last time around. He was in one of my top picks that I was looking at. I did go in a different direction at that time. This time, again, really, really good applicants. I seriously considered all of them. Don interviewed Jason. I also interviewed Jason as well. I found him really good for all kinds of reasons. He's, and I hope this is okay, he is a bit younger than the other people that are on the board today. He lives in another part of town than some of the others. He's more on the west side of town. I know he came highly regarded from not only past counselors but also current counselors, and so that's why I selected Jason for this particular opportunity. But on all of these, we take them very seriously, and I love the makeup of our board over the last 7 years. I still think we have room for a lot more opportunity for people to apply, and I am encouraging people all the time to apply for these boards. And once they do get involved, I think they're hooked. They get the same kind of public service drug that the 8 of you get and that I get as well. And I think it leads them, as in Councilor Neitzert's situation, it leads them on to more. Councilor Umbach had the same experience with Parks and Rec and things like that. So I don't know if that answers you. If there's more specific, you let me know, Councilor Erickson. And
thank
and
you. I appreciate the dialogue, and I certainly don't want to make it about Jason. I just was curious about the number of applicants, really. I mean, I don't know, and I know Parks and Rec is a more popular board, and sometimes we have to do a lot of recruiting for maybe some of the more unpopular boards that just are not as well known, I guess I would say. So my other thing, if I could, I do this every time. I'm curious if there's any of these people here. Sometimes they come. If they are, I think it's always important that we recognize them. It's not required, but I just wasn't sure if there's any of these folks that are here today. Doesn't look like it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Neitzert.
I know that Councilor Erickson was not asking anything about this particular applicant, but for what it's worth, I was pleased when I saw his appointment. I didn't even know he had applied. He's a vice president of our church. He's soon to be president. He's a guy of a lot of character. He owns his own business. He's very involved in the park system himself, as are his children. He's got a wonderful family, great character. He's going to be a wonderful appointment.
And maybe just one of the things that I do look at, and I went after Jason pretty aggressively with this. I said, why are you applying? Because when I looked at his resume or his application, I was fearful that he was a kind of a one-issue applicant. And he was very, very insistent that absolutely not. He's going to make his decisions based on the good of the city, based on the good of the Parks and Rec as a whole. He could care less if it's soccer or if it's baseball or if it's tennis or if it's broomball, whatever. He wanted to make his decisions based on the Parks and Rec as a whole, and that's what I am looking for as well. I'm not a fan of one-issue public servants. I'm not a fan of one-issue candidates, and I'm not a fan of want to issue citizen board members either. So, but thank you, Councilor. Well, very good. If there's no other question, I think we have got a motion, please?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Councilor Erickson, thank you. Councilor Vice Chair Erickson, thank you. Councilor Chair Kiley, thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item 11.
Item 11 is a resolution approving angle parking on Covell Avenue.
Heath Hofteser, Principal Traffic Engineer for the City of Sioux Falls. We were approached by Dalrymple Village, which is on the west side of Covell Avenue, with a request to put angle parking on Covell Avenue. We had discussions with them, and then we looked at the road width. Covell Avenue is wide enough to have angle parking on one side with parallel parking on the other side. And since only one side would be able to have angle parking, we had them contact their neighbors across the street, which is CCL Label, and the Park Lake Apartments, which is Murray Companies. And they reached out to them, and we got letters back from those two property owners supporting Dalrymple Village's request to add angle parking to the west side of Covell Avenue, and so we're bringing it forward to the council.
That'll help.
Thank you. Folks, another resolution. Did anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors?
Move to approve, Starr.
Councilor Starr, thank you.
Second.
Councilor Chair Kiley, thank you as well. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you, councilors. Item 12.
Item 12 is a motion to appoint Dean Buckenberg as an audit committee member to the City Council Audit Committee for a term of June 2017 through May 2020.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
I'd like to just speak on behalf of Mr. Buckenberg. He's not here tonight as he's traveling, but he has a well-rounded background in auditing. He was chief auditor, principal at Eide Bailey for a number of years. He's been retired for over a year from there. And those are the people who do the audit of the city. So to bring someone in who knows the city and what's going on with it, with their accounting system, et cetera, is a real big plus, in my opinion, for this position. So I would urge your support very strongly.
Councilor Rolfing, would you want to make a motion?
I would love to make that motion.
Thank
yes.
you.
Second, Erpenbach.
Seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Any other discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Any other items of discussion, councilors?
I have one.
Councilor Rolfing?
No, I have one little observation. It was sad to see the media leave directly after the public input section with seemingly no real interest in the real business of the city, and I will give the exception to Mr. Sneevy out there. It's come somewhat revealing to me, and I hope it is to the rest of the city, that they left at that time. Thank you.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you as well. And again, Scouts, welcome, as well as the parents and the Scoutmasters and the leaders and the stewards. We thank you for being here as well. A motion to adjourn, Council?
So moved, Erpenbach.
It's been a motion to adjourn. This meeting has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Sioux Falls, make it a great night.